Good morning YouTube, this is the Pond Diver with another real life review. Today we're going to be reviewing the Amazon Catio. Let's review it. This video is dedicated to all cat lovers, and if you have indoor cats, then this is something that you might want to look into. Constantly my cats are begging me to go outside, but we're in a city environment and it's not so friendly outside, so we wanted to allow them to go outside, but in a safe, controlled environment. So we started looking into catios, DIY catios, catios that came into pieces that you assemble, and just catios that you can purchase as whole from like Tractor Supply or something like that. We started looking at the different variables. What type wood should we use? What type enclosure should it be? Should it be chicken wire or hardware cloth? And we made a lot of determinations that it should be a harder wood that would withstand elements. And we don't want to use chicken wire because the orifice is too wide, and rather use something like a hardware cloth. I continued to do the math. I was building some carts up at the different box stores, some of the home centers and things like that, and the cost was going to be a little bit more for me to purchase everything I needed and to stain it and to seal it, ripping down wood, putting it together, and then determining which style hardware to use, like how long the screws should be, if they should be lag bolts or just screws in general, wood screws. If you follow my videos, then you know I tend to overthink things sometimes, and I've said that before. If overthinking burned calories, then I would have been dead 10 years ago. During my research, after I built all these carts at the home centers and things like that, I also did some looking online. And I came across a particular catio that Amazon sells. Now, there's a lot of different manufacturers that sell the same exact catio, so I'm just going to call it the Amazon Catio. Like I said, a lot of sellers sell this same exact catio. I have looked at them up and down, side to side, and I just went with the one that we thought was best. And in this case, the one we went to comes with the hardware cloth already attached to the wood. You don't have to frame or anything like that. So basically it comes in a kit, which is 2 boxes, and the hardware cloth is already attached to the side panels, as I'm going to call them. The wood is a fir. It's not pine real soft, it's not oak real heavy, but it is a fir type wood, which it's okay for fir to be outside as long as it's stained, and I would say sealed at the same time. And that's what we did. We went around and sealed every component before we put it out here because we want to try to get the most that we possibly can. I wouldn't say it's a Douglas fir. Nonetheless, the natural color is a little orange. If you like the color of cedar wood or something like that, then this is the right color for you. I personally really like the color. It is a natural color. Now what we did is we did go around and we did seal the outside with some spray-on sealer, which we wanted to add some longevity to the life of the catio. And I believe by doing this we probably have extended the life from 1 to 3 years if we only seal it one time. Now if we do seal it every year with the spray-on sealer, then we can probably get an indefinite amount of years out of it, as long as we take care of it. We don't hit it or try to move it or hit it with a weed eater or a lawnmower or something of that nature. I do anticipate on having it for several years. Now I did choose to do some modifications to mine, in which we will cover that in a minute, but before we do that, let's get into the build and talk about how it's constructed and then the review. So everything comes in 2 boxes. The hardware cloth is already attached to the frames. The way you should put this together is you should set your like sides with like sides. Other than the door, which is only about 2.5 feet tall, there isn't an access panel for the cats to come in and out on their own. So in our case, I cut out a small section of the hardware cloth in the back, built a little simple wooden tunnel, and attached a cat window or a pet window onto my house. It does mean that the catio is permanent in that location. But what it does is I don't have to pick the cats up, take them outside. They can do all that randomly on their own, and they do it 500,000 times a day. The cats enjoy going in and out on their own. As to, you know, your cats sometimes don't want you to touch them. And, well, that's just part of having a cat. So for the actual build, I had to acclimate myself with the panels first. I needed to determine which panels go where. And in my case, I built the two sides first, and then I built the front and back. Both sides mirror each other, and the front and back mirrors each other. So once you build one, you can do the same for the opposite side and vice versa. The hardware that they sent with it is an exterior type wood screw, so I don't see much in the way of rusting or corrosion over the years, especially if once you get it built then you seal it with some type of exterior sealer. It should be just fine. And it did take me about 5 hours to completely assemble the entire Catio, as I did take some breaks in between. I had 2 spells of rain that came and went, and I eventually moved underneath my porch to where I could not get wet in the rain. And once we had it all assembled, it was easily moved to where I needed to go. It wasn't very heavy at all. My wife and I, we just scooted it about 10 feet to where we wanted it to end up. Wrapping up the build, I think the hardware cloth is the right size. I think the frame is also easy to work with. The instructions are less than desirable. I found it to be much easier just to put my thinking cap on and to set the material where I thought it should go randomly, and it worked out. Now, I did use the images in the instructions, but the language used in the instructions is less than grammatically accurate, and it's just easier to put your thinking cap on and kind of think constructively. The shelves that are in the Catio are only about 1/8 of an inch thick, and they are of ply. The ply is probably fur. It's hard to tell because they're so thin. I don't think the shelves themselves are going to last too long, so I do have future plans on modifying them simply with a piece of oak plywood, and I'll stain and seal the oak plywood, and that will last forever. So the last thing I want to touch on in this review is the roof design, in which I had to modify. The roof that comes with it is the 1/8 of an inch plywood, but it has a heavy rolled asphalt roof that goes on top of it, and that caused a little bit of bowing in the center of the Catio roof, and for that I didn't care much about. So I had access to some decking boards. I placed 2 decking boards in 2 locations and 2 decking boards at 2 other locations in order to give a corrugated roof some pitch. So I already had the wood. I just ripped it at 44 inches long, which overlapped on both sides of the Catio, front to back, and then I went and purchased a corrugated roof that fit this side. I'm not going to give you any advice on what type roof you might want, the long piece, you might want the short piece, or whatever color. That's going to be completely up to you, even if you have to modify yours at all. I just wanted mine to all run down at a steady pitch, and I happen to like the color, and it matches the Catio real nicely. So let's talk about the overall review. Strike 1, instructions. I'm going to deduct a half a star for the instructions. Strike 2, I'm going to deduct another half a star for the roof. I felt like the plywood that was on the roof should be a little bit more robust. That way it would hold up to that asphalt heating up and sagging in the center. As far as the rest is concerned, I thought the assembly was fairly easy. Even though I did have rain, that's not the manufacturer's issue. And I thought that it went together fairly quickly, considering that I was assembling it on my own, and it's something that the average DIYer and cat lover can certainly do with no problem. If you're a cat lover like me, your cats will love you forever in their own special particular way. Now, I did purchase, like I said earlier, a cat door, and I did make a little bitty tunnel for the cats to go through from the window to the Catio. That is very self-explanatory, very easy to do. You can do that with just a simple hand saw and a couple of screws, couple of boards, and I'm not going to get into that too much. That's very easy. If you are interested in the cat door that we installed in our window, I'll leave a link to that in the description box, as well as the link to the Catio in the description box too. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about anything that I've done in this video, go ahead and drop them down in the comments section, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. If you're interested in DIYs, reviews, cooks, and things of that nature, go ahead and subscribe to this channel and click that bell for future weekly updates. Until next week, and real life reviews, this is the Pond Diver.